first can I ask your name and your about organization?
Yes. Okay.
I'm Nida Shogari. I'm the co-director of 1325 project at Itach Ma'aki.
And I'm Netta Levy. I'm an attorney at Itach Ma'aki, Women Lawyers for Social Justice. I'm co-directing the 1325 Women, Peace and Security program at our organization.
So your organization, when it established?
Itach Ma'aki, first of all, Itach Ma'aki means with you.
With you.
In Hebrew and in Arabic.
I see.
Yeah, Ma'aki, because you speak Arabic. Ma'aki is with you in a feminine tense.
Yes.
Yeah.
It addresses to women, and it was established in 2001 by feminist lawyers in Israel that intended to focus on women from marginalized communities and to focus on rights of women that are marginalized and to bring them to the forefront of the legal, the public, and the political stage in Israel.
Using the legal means. This is so basically by using the legal means, petitioning. This is what we were doing in order to get women's rights in areas of work, welfare, but also in terms of representation of women in committees and public positions and governmental positions.
So our organization has 3 branches here in Haifa, one in Tel Aviv and in Beersheba, where we lead the Bedouin Women's Rights Center, and we're working with legal tools in various ways. We're helping, aiding, and representing individual women in their lawsuits and consulting them. We have a hotline for women, mostly women who live in poverty, in issues of labor rights, as Nida mentioned. And we also do macro. We're doing community work, and we're also working with advocacy in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, and petitioning we submit petitions to the High Court of Justice in issues that regard women's rights from different angles. Nida and we are focusing on the issue of how to bring more gender perspective to the discourse and to the decision making of peace and security, which is highly relevant for Israel and Palestine, and these days, especially these days.
So nowadays, not nowadays, a couple of years ago, it's not only about the legal tools, but it's using the legal notion in a much broader way. So for example, I'm not a lawyer. I have a PhD in international politics. I'm a former lecturer and researcher on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is, so this is my field. So we're combining the politics and advocacy with the legal tools in order to advance the 1325 agenda.
So now you are supporting the women and children and for gender equality. So what's the most difficult thing to conduct your job?
Yeah, so it's not only about gender equality. 1325 Security Council Resolution 1325 has 3 main pillars. One is the protection of women, the other is the representation, and the third one is the prevention of conflict. So these are the 3 main topics that we work on. So part of that, for example, in terms of protection of women, we try in cases of severe violation of human rights and women's rights, we try to raise awareness about that. And I gave you already an example of the case of Misaf al-Yatta, the expulsion of the community there and the effect that it has on everyone, of course, but more precisely on women there. So this is one aspect. In terms of representation, as we already said, we use the legal means to pressure those in power to make sure that there are more women around the decision-making table. And of course, we would love also to contribute to the prevention of conflict by enhancing the gender perspective and gender understanding of the conflict and the solution, by encouraging dialogue, by meeting with diplomats, with anyone who's willing to listen to this to our point of view and bring the feminist perspective into the discourse, and those who are encouraging peace building initiatives. So we are also part of that.
I thought you asked about the challenge. We have many challenges, but I think one of them is the fact that we are living in a very militarized reality and society. So the military is very, very dominant, not only in the issue, the regular security issues, but it has a major part in politics, in economics, even in education, everywhere. And when the militaristic is, and when the military is so dominant in the discourse, it's very challenging to bring a feminist and a human rights agenda and messages. This is something that we see always, but these days especially. But I can even give you one example from the COVID crisis. When the COVID crisis started, and it was a civilian crisis, as we all know from all around the world. 2 months after it started, we realized from the social networks that the government established an experts team to deal with the crisis in Israel, and we realized that there were 23 experts in this team, with not even one woman. And this was totally civilian crisis, and still in Israel, it was male dominant. Not only male dominant, there weren't any experts on issues of welfare or public health or education, etc. So in Israel, the way that security is being referred to is a very, very narrow, militarized way, and this is one of our challenges. To give another angle, to bring the voices of women, to bring a feminist voice to this discourse.
Yeah, the other challenge has to do with the Israeli and Palestinian perspective and shared work, both within Israel and also cross-border with the West Bank and Gaza. Within Israel, there are over 20% of the Israeli population are Palestinians, 48 Palestinians, i.e. Israeli citizens. They hold Israeli citizenship, but in fact they are at best case scenario, they're second-class citizens. So in terms of their rights, civic rights, freedoms, freedom of expression, so on and so forth, they're not really getting equal rights. So another thing that we see at Itach Ma'aki as a major success that we managed to do, especially in this project, is to have a joint leadership. So Neta and I, she's a Jewish Israeli, I'm a Palestinian. We both lead this project together. So we managed to bring the various perspectives of a certain issue. We discuss it from using also the access that each one of us has to the grassroots and the people that we know. So we try and bring as many different perspectives to the issue, fully understand it as much as we can, and then suggest solutions to the actual problem. And this helps coming up with solutions that are more sustainable, that are more adjustable, and they suit, and they are really real answers to the problems. So one of the things, for example, that we did just recently was training women in peace negotiations from a gender perspective. Now, normally, as Neta used to say, usually when these programs at Itach Ma'aki would be advertised, they will manage to reach mainly Jewish women from a certain area, usually the center of Israel. But when we did it together, when we built this training together, we managed to take into account the needs of the women. Okay, what are they looking for in such training. What are the obstacles or the challenges that they face? Starting with things like, people who are coming from the periphery as opposed to the center, how much commuting time, so on and so forth. But also like in terms of the content, okay? We tried to, in this training, we made introduction to these women to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and we tried to bring the variety of perspectives and ways to approach and understand this conflict, and to bring the Palestinian voice of the Israeli citizens who are inside Israel that are normally ignored. Like usually when you talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and you talk about Israelis and Palestinians, it's very rare that the Palestinian citizens of Israel are mentioned or are taken for nobody's asking them about their perspective, what do they see. Usually the only question at the best case scenario is, if there's going to be a Palestinian state, do you want to move to that Palestinian state or stay in Israel? And that's not even that's not an option, okay? We are talking about if we're interested in coming up with a lasting solution, we have to take into account also what the Palestinians inside Israel have to say. How do they see their identity? How they see their future? So again, this is, for example, one of the challenges that we see, that every step, every process has to be led jointly by Israeli and Palestinian to bring the variety of perspectives. So we tried this was like our pilot project within Itach Ma'aki. So far it's been working really great, and we're hoping to do much of that and apply it to other projects within Itach Ma'aki, but also hopefully other organizations will also follow our steps. Yeah.
Also, would you share us about the project collecting the testimonies?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So Netta, maybe you want to start with that.
Okay. So one of the issues, as mentioned, the voices of women are hardly heard or echoed in the mainstream media in Israel. And also when you report about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you usually hear the security, the military prognosis, etc. But so we wanted to shift the focus and to bring the focus and the emphasis on the voices of the women. We learn also from the experience that in Colombia, during the war in Colombia, the women organizations started to collect testimonies of women, how the war there affected women, and this also enabled them to take a major and substantial part in the negotiation that led to a peace agreement, to an historic peace agreement in Colombia. So we learned from the Colombian model, and we started to collect testimonies of women from Israel and from Palestine, and to show how the conflict and the occupation has affected them. And one of our projects was to collect, to interview women in Mesafriyata. Mesafriyata is an area near Hebron, and is a rural area that the Israeli military declared as a fire zone area, and this is why they wanted to expel all the local from their houses and their homes there. And the issue of Mesafriyata is being reported all around the world and is very important issue. But what we realized is that there's hardly a focus on the women there. So our researcher went to interview the women there and to put a focus on their daily life and their daily challenges. And this brought a totally different aspect of their experience, and how civilians deal with expulsion, with living under a constant threat of settlers' violence and of being expelled from their houses. And one of the things that was that is very important for us is not to bring only the women as the victims. The testimonies are not only how the women suffer. The women suffer greatly from the conflict. But it's not only how they are victims, but how they are also have a different point of view about the conflict and how to prevent conflict and how to bring a solution to the conflict. And one of the examples that we brought in the position paper about the women from Sefer Yatta was how they were the ones that built the schools, the classes that enabled some children in Sefer Yatta to study throughout a very difficult period, and they were the initiators, and they were guarding the place in order for this to happen. And when the schools were demolished about a year ago, the girls were the first that needed the girls were the first to have to leave and to drop from school because it was the next school was too far away, and the girls were not allowed to go that far away.
Yeah, fearing like sexual violence. It wasn't safe. There wasn't really an easy way of transportation to where they studied. So again, all of these are, we managed to get the stories and the voices of the women thanks to that we interviewed them, we listened to them. But another thing that we were hoping to do, as Netta said, we are hoping to collect thousands of testimonies like what happened in Colombia, similar to that case. And by bringing those voices, forcing decision makers to bring more women to decision making tables, And also, these kinds of testimonies that we collect, they help us in understanding the conflict from a different perspective, different angle that the current politicians, mainly male-dominated politicians and decision-making makers, are ignoring. So this is a fresh point of view, a different perspective that we are bringing that can give a more thorough understanding of the problems, the needs on the ground, and then it's much better to come up with appropriate solutions. So what we do right now, Netta and I are starting a database in which we have we put there all the testimonies that we collected. We could also collect testimonies from social media, from reports. So far we have over 1,500 testimonies, and we are looking for urgent funding in order to build this database, and it has to be a secure database. So we are also welcoming any kind of partnership and collaboration. It can be with universities worldwide, it can be with other researchers who are interested either in the conflict or in women, peace and security. So this is also another thing that we're doing, and similar to what we did in Sefer Yatta and what we're also about to do right now in the Negev, where we'll be collecting testimonies from women in the Negev, especially from women who live in unrecognized villages. Unfortunately, up until this day, there are still unrecognized villages in Israel, mainly Palestinian or Bedouin villages that the state refuses to recognize, and that means that these villages have no legal status. They don't exist on the map, and so they do not get any kind of services. They don't get health services or roads. You cannot build there, and the population there also is under the threat of being expelled. So what we're doing right now is we're about to collect testimonies from these women who live in unrecognized villages, mainly in tents or very simple houses that can barely provide them with any kind of protection or security. And you can imagine with the current war, that they're facing the rockets that are coming from Gaza, with no shelter, no safe haven, no safe place to be in. And also many of these women, they have no legal status. They are not citizens of Israel because they cannot get a citizenship by, there's a ban on family reunification, and as such, a Palestinian woman or man cannot get a citizenship, an Israeli citizenship. So basically, it means that we have a group of women who live without any legal status within unrecognized villages, with no, as I said, with no shelters. They cannot work, so they have no way to provide for themselves. So basically, also we're hoping to do something similar, expand the collection of testimonies. Another major group of women that we want to interview are women of Israeli soldiers. We want to, or women or husbands to Israeli soldiers, or mothers to Israeli soldiers. We want to understand, what does it mean to have a relative or a partner who's serving in the army in general, because we're looking at the conflict in general, but more precisely right now, especially those soldiers who serve either in Gaza or in the northern border. What does it mean for them? What are the consequences? What is the price that is being paid? And what are the solutions that these women are, or the alterations that they have to come up with in order to survive and manage to still keep their families, keep their jobs. We're hoping that we will expand with these testimonies as much as we can. And also with our partners in the West Bank, we're also hoping that they will do something similar with the Palestinian women in the West Bank and Gaza, and also collect testimonies there. So it's a huge project that we're really we think this would have a great impact, not only on the work that we do within the women organizations, but on the entire map of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This can be transformative the same way it was in Colombia. So this is something that we're currently working on. We really appreciate any kind of support, either financially, logistically, anything is really welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just add to that, maybe what I think that these testimonies are also part of our message that in these days international media and international public are always dividing themselves to I'm pro-Israel, I'm pro-Palestinian, and together with our partners in the joint steering committee that we're having together with women from the West Bank and from Israel, we're talking about not choosing sides, but to choose the side of the women and to choose the feminist side. This is the side that relates to
pro-life, mainly pro-life, pro-human, human rights. This is what we're trying, equal rights for everyone. This is something that I can't be at ease knowing that my neighbor who's living in Gaza or the West Bank has less of rights. Less they and now even the situation is really disastrous. So what we're saying is that being against the occupation does not necessarily mean that you're against the state of Israel. To the contrary, on the long term and on the short term, this is what will help Israel be more peaceful. This is what will bring a real security to Israel and also to the region. Yeah.
Okay. So in Japan, also mass media broadcasting about the airstrike in Gaza and how many people dying every day.
Yeah.
So many Japanese people don't know how Israeli people and Palestinian people doing effort for the peace building. So do you have any message to the international community and also Japanese people?
Yeah. You wanna go?
I feel it's so. I think that it's since October 7th, and again it didn't start in October 7th, but since October 7th we are living in a nightmare in Israel and in Palestine and of course in Gaza. I think that the message is that I need some. I feel it's so big that I need to be a little bit more focused. So give me a second. Do you want to start maybe, and then I will.
Yeah. I think right now what's needed is. Okay, I'm sure I know that like you look at Netta and myself and think, oh, this is really great. It's actually interesting to see that there are still Palestinians and Israelis working together. But I think what needs to be done is support these kinds of initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what happened following October 7th, and as Netta said, this didn't start on October 7th. We have 75 years of occupation before that, okay? So, but what happened right after and with the start of war, there was a crackdown and censorship on voices like the voice that Netta and I bring, okay? Voices who oppose the Israeli occupation, who call for a long-lasting peaceful solution to the conflict rather than a military solution. So it became much harder for us and much risky, because we're risking, especially me as a Palestinian, I'm risking being arrested, being harassed, being, luckily not fired within our organization, but others have been fired.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need from the international community, rather than supporting with more weapons, more money that's going for like military purposes, we want more people and more governments to invest in peace. If you look at the amount of money that's being invested in weapons, in missiles, in rockets, there are billions of dollars. So we just want 1 billion maybe out of these many billions, to be invested. It's a real investment in peace, in what people really need. We don't need a wall. We saw that this wall, the security wall that was built, it did not help. It did not give people, it did not grant them security. We saw that all the money that has been invested decades ago, years and years over in militarizing Israel did not help Israel in becoming more secure or to defend itself or the population. So let's try for once, try the alternative way, the civilian way. First of all, we have to sit with everyone, understand what the needs are. What do they want, What do Palestinians want? All fractions of Palestinians, including Hamas, We have to listen to everyone, and we have to sit with everyone on the Israeli side, including Ben Gvir and other settlers, and listen what are their needs. And I'm sure that on a negotiation table, we can reach a settlement. This is what usually happens. After every war, you have to sit on a negotiation table. So rather than having it later, let's have it sooner and spare human lives. So what I'm asking and what we're asking from the international community is basically support these kinds of initiatives. Support people who want to end the Israeli occupation, support people who are interested in bringing a civilian resolution, peaceful resolution to this conflict, not a military one.
Maybe I will end with referring to one of the women that were killed in October 7th, and Vivian Silver. Vivian Silver, she was a colleague of ours. She was a peace builder from the movement Women Wage Peace, and she was working with us on advancing the principles of 1325, Women, Peace and Security. And she's one of the victims of the horrific attack on October 7th. But I'm sure many times in demonstrations I'm being asked, why are you standing here? What would these people tell you? And I'm sure that people like Vivian Silver would have told me that this is that we need to listen to the human voice and to the humans in Israel, in Palestine, in Gaza, of course, and to make a great effort in order to stop this dichotomy between two sides and to sit together. Like Nida said, it's not Israel against Palestine. It's not Israel against Hamas. There's a lot of fractions, and when hopefully more efforts will be invested in diplomatic efforts, it's crucial that there will be women there, around the table, and not only women, but women from diverse groups, to bring their needs and to bring their opinions and their opinions as civilians and also as people that are experts in security. But security is a much broader, security has a much broader definition than just the military sense of it.
Yeah, and security is pretty much bound to equal rights for everyone. This is what we believe. You can't have security if someone is getting less rights than you are. Okay, so this is what we need to focus on, that at the end, everyone gets equal rights, okay? And, we're not even imposing a solution. Whatever the different parties reach and they agree upon, we'll be happy to adopt that and go accordingly. But as we saw, again, over 70 years of using military means, over 70 years of militarizing, 70 years of really vicious and bloody conflict, this is not the solution. The solution is really, giving more voices and hearing, echoing the voices of the people who are affected by this war, and see what are the needs on the ground and what is the best solution.
Okay, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
تודה, شكرا.
عفواً, شكراً.
Thank you.